I wasted 6 years on someone I thought was the one long. Story time. Let's start from the beginning. So, for those of you who were online in 2012, you may remember the dating site Meet Me was originally my yearbook. Anyway, a man, much older than myself, hit me up on there. In the beginning, I knew nothing about him, he was just some guy wanting to hang out. I was 19, old enough to make my own decisions, but because I'm an introvert, I was extremely hesitant to give my address to this man. He kept asking for it, until finally I caved. I lived with my parents at the time, and tried to explain to him that I couldn't just have anyone over, much less at night. My parents had me on a tight leash, but that's not relevant here. I give him my address, and that same night, he convinces me to sneak him into my bedroom window. Mind you, up until this point, I had never done anything like this before in my life up to that point. Against my better judgment, and because I can't say no, I agree. He comes over, I let him in. While they're in my room, we pretty much just talk, watch a movie, play a game, innocuous things for the most part, all while trying to be quiet because my parents' bedroom is right across the hall from mine. Yes, he did try to have time with me, and I told him no. Thankfully, he didn't force it and knew I was terrified of this whole situation, of being caught more than anything. So according to him, anyway, we had done this several times through the first half of my senior year of high school. I have bad memory, so the only time I explicitly remember was that first time. Anyway, time passes and I have no clue what he's after, as far as I'm concerned. There was no talk of advancing this into a possible relationship. At least, none that was obvious. I moved on with my life, and in the second quarter of my senior year, I meet a guy, we start talking, start dating. After 3 months together, I decide to bring him down for my graduation. Well, the man from before enters my life again. I tell him I'm taken and to leave me alone. Well, he doesn't. He starts going off on this tirade about how the guy I'm with is a criminal, isn't who he says he is, etc. The guy I'm dating at this time is literally my age, trying to go to college, etc. I ask for proof, and, lo and behold, I never get any real proof, and am expected to just take his word on it because apparently he knew someone at BF school that knew his history. I resisted further communication, and ignored any further attempts at communication from him, for about 3 years. Of course, he told some friends about all this, and they began harassing me over email, telling me that I'm throwing away a good man, etc. I chewed them out, ignored them. The man pops up again, trying to talk to me. At this point, being the kind individual I am, I give him a chance to backpedal previous accusations and maybe be friends. This didn't happen. He still wanted a relationship with me. Still wanted me to leave the guy I was dating. Well, after arguing back and forth, I stopped responding. Yes, I still had complicated feelings for this man because of our first encounter. Then I hear from these friends that he had a bad week, lost a cat, can't remember what else, and that he was mentally breaking and crying over me. Basically, they told me that he was in the mental hospital, and that there was a chance I could get him out, stopped from being moved to a facility in California. Naturally, my feelings for this man bubbled to the surface. I was scared and didn't want him to suffer this fate. All I had to do was make a statement that I'd watch over him, his mental well-being, etc. This was around the time I was going to start attending university in another town, finally leave the nest. My young, stupid heart decided that this was the best thing I could do for myself. I ended things with my boyfriend and essentially started dating this man. Parents didn't approve, which they didn't from the beginning, as the first fiasco had them learning about him being in my life. I'm an adult, didn't need their approval, etc. Went on my way to college. We start dating, I'm happy, learning more about him, and chalked it up to a good choice. The flirting. Eventually, I find out that he's flirting with other girls on Facebook. When I question him, he usually tells me a story about how they're going through this, that and the other, and he's just trying to raise their confidence. I tell him there are better ways to raise someone's confidence besides calling them hottie. He admits it and I think nothing of it, easily forgive him, etc. Well, that wouldn't be the last time I saw messages. Every time, the same story, and every time, I believe him. I put it out of my mind and eventually stopped trying to see his laptop screen. In 2017, I was timely assaulted. I won't go into that here, and because I was having trouble recalling everything that had happened, he almost broke up with me over it. I was already in a very fragile state, and I hear if you love me, you'll come take a drive with me. So we drive, out to the mountains. It's late at night. He's furious, and I'm beside myself with despair. I was waiting with bated breath, whether he was gonna stay or leave. A deer was caught on our headlights, and the vehicle came to an abrupt stop. He said, "I'm not leaving you," and I burst into tears of relief as we head back to the house. I start therapy, but never really make any progress. Everything goes back to normal after a few months. After a few years of dealing with opposition to this relationship, singing his praises to my closest friends, I decide I'm going to move in with him about a year before I'm set to graduate. That way, I'm saving money. I was already spending my weekends at his place, so it wouldn't be a huge transition. I'm happy to finally be moving on to a new chapter in my life. Well, on top of the flirtatious messages, I discover that he's going into an adult chat room. Before, he tried to tell me it was a gaming site. I've never seen any messages he's sent on there. I went digging. It was definitely an adult chat room. I confront him, telling him that this is not a gaming site, it's a chat room, and that I'd like him to stop. So, he stops, for a while. He tells me someone wanted him to come back, probably thinking I still bought that it was a gaming site. I'm defeated on this front, deciding that he's going to go on it whether I like it or not, and look past it. Aside from all of this, we really did have a pretty good relationship. I figured it wasn't worth it to throw the relationship away over a stupid internet room. I loved him, and we had talks of marriage. In between all of this, the relationship wasn't perfect. He would get mad at me a lot, yelling at me over small things. Every time I cried, and he would apologize, make it better, etc. I thought this was just a normal dynamic, even though those who I told said otherwise. It continued this way for a while, until we packed up and moved for his job. Before moving, up until that point, the district refused to hire him. He was a substitute for the local high school, and, well, the principal fired him because of a student complained that they were touched inappropriately. According to him, the kid was acting up in class, and he had made a loud noise to startle them. Anyway, he gets fired and isn't able to find work for a while. After a while, he was teaching at the alternative high school, the principal there loves him, students like him, etc. The biggest obstacle to further employment was an HR director that he was butting heads with, not believing that he was qualified to do the job, etc., just giving him grief. Eventually he got hired by a different district, realizing that he'd probably never work in that district again because of the HR director. After a year and telling me he's dramatically improved student test scores, it was remote teaching learning because of COVID and a matter of him driving up every week, leaving me alone at the house. We moved in July. Since we weren't able to get a house, we started staying in hotels, continuing the search. School had resumed in person, so he was leaving during the day while I stay in the hotel room and work on my master's degree. I enrolled in a program set to start in the fall. Everything was great, normal, until the end of December. He has text messages open on his phone. While he's showing me a house, I briefly glance over the text, read something about a lack of pics, while still having my attention on the property listing. Soon after, he leaves the room. My curiosity gets the better of me. His phone screen is still on the messages. I look, scroll up and read that he's asked for lewd pictures of this woman, asked about mini-me and that he wants to meet her. I freak out internally, and quickly snap a photo before he comes back in the room. Upon doing a search, I learn that this woman is local to the area, and contemplate the idea of reaching out to her, but decide against it. I don't confront him, but I am feeling betrayed and on high alert. About a week later, he leaves his laptop open while he's off at work. Me being curious, yet again, I look at his web browsers, see more messages, him logged onto Facebook as a fake profile. I start getting weird feelings, but still don't confront him. A few days pass, computer screen open again, I see searches done for different spells, reconciliation, snake eyes, tarot spreads, etc. And then I see a search term. I did not open any of these tabs. That shocks me to my core. I don't want to cite it word for word here, but it's essentially suggestive of CP. At this point my stomach has literally dropped, and I'm at a complete loss for words, thoughts, actions. Before discovering the CP query, I contact his ex, and ask about his past behavior. Sure enough, a lot of the same behavior took place when he was with her, the flirting with girls, etc., normal cheating stuff. She tells me that he lied about his military service. He's told me he was in the Navy, Spec forces, had special clearance, because she grew up military. She also mentioned how the friends of his from before don't exist. Her family had tried to look them up, no records whatsoever. I asked her about other things that he's talked about when he would bring her up in conversation to me, and ended up getting a different story. Today, I talked to someone who was a mutual friend and someone for whom he babysat for in the early aughts. There was an argument a while back about him making their daughter uncomfortable. He told me that all he had done was say hi, wish her a happy birthday, since it was around that time, etc. This was way before all of this other stuff. Anyway, I asked the friend about this incident, and according to her, he was showing up at the daughter's workplace and asking her weird questions. After the third or fourth time of doing this is when the argument started. Apparently, he had also invited the daughter to the dog park. Usually he invites all of them, but this time it was just the daughter. Of course, it never happened. Around this time, we never went into the restaurant where she was working because of wanting to avoid drama, etc. We also weren't going to the dog park, or at least he wasn't going. This brings me to the present, heartbroken, miserable, and trying to figure out when to get out of this situation. Our relationship was founded on a lie. Who knows what else was a lie that I haven't found it. I'm only sticking around now until one of his sick and dying animals passes, and until there's a house sale approaching quickly. I know this was an incredibly long post, and I'm sure I left out a lot of details still. Thank you for sticking with me. This is my story of infidelity. Update: I warned a potential AP about him and have made plans to leave. So, I posted my infidelity story here a few weeks ago, and I'm happy to provide you all with an update. I got a one-way plane ticket out of the state for next month. I'm finally leaving. Per my original post, I mentioned how I saw texts from a woman, that he was asking for pics, wanting to meet up, etc. Well, I found her on Facebook, and I told her what he was doing. Needless to say, she was shocked and started apologizing to me. She said thank you and said she would stop talking to him. I know it doesn't seem like much in the grand scheme of things, but it's one less person he can hurt. It felt good, exposing him. Update: I left him. I finally left him. I did it. I packed my stuff, and I left. Staying in a separate hotel until my flight leaves in 2 weeks. I'm so devastated, relieved, broken, happy. Redditor's reactions. Story 2 after. Redditor 1. The range of emotions you get when you finally decide to leave can be a bit overwhelming. I felt everything at once and walked around for a week, kind of catatonic. They will sort themselves out and you'll experience intense single emotions in the coming time. Just breathe. Know it'll pass. You've got this and you've made the right decision. Always come back to that thought however you're feeling. Redditor 2. I don't know your backstory. I do, however, know how hard it is to leave someone you put your everything into. I wish you peace of mind and heart in the near future. You deserve so much more in life and don't settle for anything less than happiness.